Holy and beautiful is the custom which brings us together in the presence of the Most High, to face our ideals, to remember our loved ones in absence, to give thanks, to make confession, to offer forgiveness, to be enlightened, and to be strengthened. Through this quiet hour breathes the worship of the ages, the cathedral music of history. Three unseen ghosts attend: faith, hope, and love. Let all our hearts prepare them place. We light this chalice for the warmth of love, for the light of truth, and for the energy of action. Good morning. Good morning. We happy few. Thank you all for joining us today, and welcome to the Unitarian Church of Ogden. My name is Dylan Zwick, and I am glad to be leading worship today. I'm also excited and happy to welcome our guest speaker, Dr. Rosemary Lesser, who will be speaking to us about democracy in Utah. We are so glad you're here today in this community that strives to be loving, inclusive, and compassionate. One way to connect with this community is to let us know you're here. If you're a newcomer, welcome. We're so glad you're here. We encourage you to fill out a newcomer card in the pews and put it in the offering basket when it comes by later, and please stay and chat with us after the service. If you're joining us online, please fill out the newcomer card online. If you have been a longtime member of the congregation, we encourage you to wear your name tag. This helps everyone feel more connected and helps our newcomers get to know you more easily. We love having people of all ages in our community. As you came in, we hope you saw the basket of activities for hands that like to stay busy. This is for all of you at any age, and we welcome all the wiggles and sounds of a multi-generational community. If you haven't already, I don't think I have, please put your phones on silent. We are so glad each and every one of you is here. Jimmy Carter, who after living over a century, passed away less than 1 year ago, was a man of many talents, including, this is not well known, a poet. In 1995, he published a book of poems entitled Always a Reckoning, which included this one. It's called Progress Does Not Always Come Easy. As a legislator in my state, I drew up my first law to say that citizens could never vote again after they had passed away. My fellow members faced the troubling issue bravely, locked in hard debate, of whether, after someone's death had come, 3 years should be adequate to let the family, recollecting him, determine how a loved one may have cast a vote if he had only lived to see the later voting day. My own neighbors warned me I had gone too far in changing what we'd always done. I lost the next campaign and failed to carry a single precinct with a cemetery. The subject of our service here today is democracy in Utah. And I sometimes feel about it the way that Gandhi felt about Western civilization. I think it would be an excellent idea. Carter's humorous poem hints at something very serious, and the title of his poem is unquestionably true. Progress does not always come easy. Specifically, if you want change, it's unlikely to come from those in charge. Whoever is in charge today got there through whatever system is in place today. And why would they want to change it if it's worked so well for them? In a representative democracy, ideally, we as voters choose our representatives, who are then supposed to work on our behalf and for our benefit. However, if those representatives are the ones who decide how they are chosen, then you get representatives choosing their voters and who work on behalf of their donors, their friends, and themselves. So how can this corrupting influence be kept in check? Well, the Utah Constitution offers an ingenious way: the ballot initiative. Specifically, proposals for new laws can, with enough support, be put directly to the voters. And indeed, in 2018, a proposal for modifying how we choose our representatives was given to the voters, and wonderfully, it passed. Unsurprisingly, the legislature didn't like this change and did everything they could to overturn what the voters had supported. Last year, the Utah Supreme Court, somewhat surprisingly, said the legislature couldn't do that. Specifically, it said that if the people vote to change the system by which they're governed, those empowered by the old system cannot simply change it back. This fight goes on, and the outcome is far from certain. One great soldier in this fight is our own Rosemary Lesser, our guest speaker here today. Rosemary served as the representative for HD10 here in Ogden for 4 years, and during that time, she was the only Democrat in the Utah legislature outside Salt Lake County. She was a major target in the redistricting efforts before the 2022 election, and she was an even greater target in 2024, in part because of her support for the right of the people to change the system by which they're governed. In spite of this, she hasn't given up the fight, and we're honored to have her here today to talk with us about it and how we can help. She'll join us at this pulpit right after this musical interlude of Sam Cooke's "A Change Is Gonna Come." Just need to go like that.
Perfect.
There you go.
Perfect. Thank you, everybody. It is wonderful to be here among you, and I am so happy to have this opportunity to speak. I'm sure as all of us watched that inspiring video, we recognized that so many of those images actually could have been shot in the past several weeks. You know, I saw the Black man standing with guard troops facing him, and I thought to myself, my goodness, this happened in Washington, D.C. just this past month. So progress is something that we always need to be working for. So before I begin, I wanted to acknowledge the vital work of the Unitarian Universalist Association and UU the Vote. And the commitment of this organization in protecting democracy and empowering every citizen's voice is not only inspiring, but absolutely essential in this moment. It is the same spirit of civic courage that shaped Utah's own spirit of democracy. And so today I'm going to be talking about take you on this journey of democracy in Utah, how it began, how it's been tested and is being tested, and why this matters more than ever right now. Now, remember, when Utah entered the Union in 1896, it was the 45th state. I mean, there were not very many other states that joined after us. And our Constitution came at a particularly present time in Utah history, or in the world, in the United States history, for democratic participation. So I think many of you recognize this person, Anybody know who she is? Sure. Heather Cox Richardson, a historian who writes a brilliant newsletter called Letters from an American. And she reminds us that today's times echo the 1890s, at the time that Utah entered the United States of America. Back then, an anti-democratic faction gained control of a political party. Sound familiar? The Gilded Age concentrated immense fortunes while working families struggled. Immigrants were scapegoated, labor unions were feared, and political polarization ran deep. Sound familiar? History has a way of circling back, testing whether we are ready to defend democracy again. So in this movement, the time that Utah was admitted to the Union was a real significant time of stress in our country. There was a depression in 1893. A populist movement rose up demanding reforms, including direct elections of senators. I'm sorry, I didn't realize. Thank you for reminding me about that. And I'm sorry for the Zoom people who may not be hearing what I'm saying. Could you hear me better now? Okay, great. Direct election of senators and ways for citizens to bypass the legislatures when trust was broken. This urgency birthed direct democracy initiatives and referendums. And so I wanted to introduce to you, even though I don't know which member he is on this screen, Representative Sherman Smith, a Democrat from Utah. And in 1899, he introduced, now remind you, you can see, this was Utah's third state legislature. Imagine that. Our state was only 3 years old when he proposed, along with this populist movement, the opportunity for initiatives and referendums. And it was on the ballot in 1900, stating that legislative power is vested in the legislature and in the people, who may initiate laws or require laws passed by the legislature to be submitted to the voters, and that the people retain the right to reform their government. That amendment passed decisively, 71 to 28% back in 1900. And Utahns made it clear that people would hold equal power in shaping their laws. And here in Utah, that fight for direct democracy found its champion in this city, Ogden, Utah, channeled by Democratic Representative Sherman Smith. He recognized that government needed to be responsible to the people and gave Utahns the tools in the Constitution to check legislative power, a right that remains vital today. Now, the thing about it is that, as Dylan referred to, there can often be a real timeline for progress that defies sensibilities. And in fact, after this constitutional amendment was passed, there was no law enacted that actually set in place initiative and ballot initiatives and referendum until 1916. So, I mean, they delayed for 16 years after the people, remember, from almost more than a two-thirds majority had voted for this. And when it did, Utah imposed some of the highest signature requirements in the nation, and still the people persevered. It took until 1960 before the first ballot initiative was enacted and created a merit system for hiring deputy sheriffs, ending the patronage system that many had found to be so corrupt. But of course, 2018, as Dylan referenced, was a real significant time for the people to speak out using the ballot initiatives, including better boundaries, otherwise known as Prop 4, expanding Medicaid, and the opportunity for cannabis to be prescribed by healthcare providers. So, the legislators' response. I would characterize it as from lukewarm to obstructive. And even now, citizens have just 30 days to collect signatures for an initiative, but opponents are given 45 days to try to convince the people who have signed the ballot initiative to have their names taken off. And in 2026, voters are going to see on the ballot, all of you, a proposed constitutional amendment that will change the definition of what it means to have a bill pass. Instead of the majority that has been enshrined in democracy since the days of in Athens, where a democracy was and a vote for the majority was defined as 50% plus one, there will be a constitutional amendment for you to vote on that will raise the passage to 60%. So this would, if that bar had existed, that would have kept the state of Utah from expanding Medicaid. And quite honestly, it would even have prevented the ramp tax that we all enjoy, that we, the people, voted for. So one question that I have for you as you think about it, though, is would the ballot initiative and referendum process be even required if legislators listened to the people they represent? When Sherman Smith put this into effect as part of Utah's constitution and constitutional amendment in 1900, he put this in because he, even when the state was only 4 years old, he recognized that there needed to be protection for the democratic process. So I know from the last time that you got an update from Elizabeth Rasmussen, the executive director of Better Boundaries, she did not have the result of the court ruling when she spoke with you. But as Dylan had just brought to your light, it was in July of 2024 that the Utah Supreme Court unanimously said that the legislature's alterations of the ballot initiative violated voters' constitutional rights. How about that? And the case was returned to district court. Now, it took over a year for the district court to render an opinion, and everyone has been waited with bated breath for this. But in August of 2025, just last month, the district court judge said that the repeal of Prop 4 was unconstitutional and struck down the current congressional map. So, this battle has continued. As I mentioned, the legislature has been sometimes enthusiastic and sometimes obstructive, and they are fighting this with every legal advocate that they possibly can, including very high-paid lawyers paid for by our tax money, by the way, who are coming in from Washington, D.C. to see this defeated. In September, the district court judge, Gibson, removed her order that the maps needed to be completed in 30 days, and she set a timeline, and I'll be sharing that timeline with you. But the bottom line is that in September 25th, not very far away, the legislature will publish the Prop 4 compliant maps. And from the 26th to October 6th, fast timeline, there will be public input on the maps, and this means you. So again, a series of timelines. You don't have to commit this to memory, but the bottom line is what we all need to be paying attention to is that the lieutenant governor has stated unequivocally that November 10th, she also budged a little on the date, but November 10th was the latest possible date for the court to select a final map according to, so that everything can be in place for filing for votes. Now, the one thing that I say about this that strikes me as a bit surprising is that with Utah's laws, an individual does not even need to live in the district that they're running for Congress. So as we know, in Congressional District 1, our representative does not live in our district. So this pearl clutching about getting the maps by November strikes me as a little bit extreme, but I hope it doesn't. Yeah, I know. So, and so across the fair map finish line, we've got a few things. First of all, on the offense, we have the court order to redraw the congressional maps by November 10th. And that Prop 4 being the law will mean that the path to fair state map exists by 2026. And I'm really proud that I was part of this group and was given the privilege to address this group about fighting the gerrymandering and urging this. But I have to say that the day that I was one of the speakers in this rally, my opponent received $20,000 directly from the Speaker of the House of the state of Utah. So that's what happens when you speak out, and I will not be silenced. So in 2026, we will have the ballot questions that I told you about, the 60% vote, and there will likely be on the ballot an opportunity for voters to remove the initiative process from the Utah Constitution. So we'll make it very simple. What's the vote? No. So as we get to the end, the Utah Supreme Court said it best when they stated, "We hold the people's right to alter or reform government that is constitutionally protected from government infringement." That right began with leaders like Sherman Smith, and it continues with us. From the ballot initiative forward, the message is very clear. In Utah, the people's legislative power is equal to that of the legislature when it comes to reforming government. And our shared story of democracy is still being written. And so, as we close, I want to leave you with these two images. The first reminds us that we need to remain grounded, resilient, and responsible by responding and organizing in these authoritarian times. And the second invites us to the gathering. You all recognize this logo, and this is a monthly space organized by the Unitarian Universalist Association to fortify ourselves for the long road ahead, because democracy is not a single battle. It is a lifelong commitment, and we stand together. We find both the strength and the hope to keep moving forward. Thank you very much.
Rosemary, are you okay with taking a couple questions?
Great. I would love to talk about that. Yes. And I'll repeat your question for the people who are online.
Up to the microphone. Great. Pour it on the ground just in case. Some time ago, can you hear me?
Yeah. Some time ago, I heard that there is a difference between representative democracy and democracy, and that the legislature was practicing uh, legislative democracy, and that once they got elected, they had the right to do whatever they wanted to. They represented the people. They didn't really need to talk to the people directly after that. And I wondered if that is what you see is going on right now, because it looks to me like they do this to us. They just don't accept the things that we say, like, ballot initiatives and stuff like that. Can you respond to that?
Well, I agree with you completely that the goal of representative democracy, of course, is that the people who are elected to represent us will indeed respond to that representation instead of following the direction of their leadership of their political party instead of listening to the people. And that's why I firmly believe that this constitutional right for the people to speak out when it's clear that individuals' voices are not being heard in a representative manner to enact policy, that the initiative and ballot referendum is something that is our safety net for our democracy, in my mind.
Sometimes I feel like they're saying, we know what's best for you.
Correct. I agree with that. And what's so interesting is that when I talked about Medicaid expansion across the country, state after state was able to bring Medicaid expansion forward for the benefit of the people through the ballot initiative process. And it's interesting now, not every state has this opportunity, but it's interesting that many red states actually do, because they were founded sort of at this populist time. And that's why I wanted to set the stage for the 1890s. But I know for a fact that Oklahoma, nobody would accuse Oklahoma of being a blue state. They had to enact Medicaid expansion, which time after time after time had been rejected by their legislature. And it took the people, direct democracy, having their voice to be able to enact this, which is why I pose that question. Would we need this would we need initiatives and referendums if the legislators were responsive to the people? When they are not, this is our only way to express it. And I am especially offended by also essentially moving the goalpost back to changing what a majority is. The majority of approval has been present in the space across the world for thousands of years, that 50 plus one was always defined. And it is offensive to me that one of the ways that they are trying to stop the will of the people by changing what constitutes an approval for that vote. But we just saw this referendum in place right now with Protect the Workers Vote. Over 300,000 people signed that ballot initiative to oppose the end to collective bargaining. Again, we talk about what happened in the 1890s, the effect of suppressing the labor unions. And the referendum would not have been necessary if the legislature had said, the people don't want this. But the referendum is our only alternative when the people's voice is not heard. Thank you.
Thank you.
So this is reminiscent of the Red Scare.
Yes, there are many cycles of history. It is scary.
You say socialism, and people just think you're a commie, like in McCarthy era. And in France, they have a social democracy. Now that gets abused too, but in fact, the only way that people can say their piece is by marching in the streets, the way they used to do during the Renaissance and thousands of years ago. And it seems like a pretty good system. So it seems to me we're heading towards social democracy or democratic socialism, whatever way you want to put it. And it's not just red, it's blue and red and white. So what do you have to say about that? Do you think that's true?
Well, I think that it is going to take a combination of approaches. It will take people on the streets and at the ballot boxes, both expressing the will of the people. And I think that part of the problem is that there is a significant misunderstanding of what constitutes socialism and so forth. In fact, when I served as a doctor in the U.S. Air Force, the government paid for people's health care. Imagine that. We have Social Security and so forth. I think that in this era, it is going to take the ballot box, and it's going to take the people who are marching in the street to also use the ballot box. That marching in the street is not enough if you don't vote. Hence, that's why I am so proud of the UU the Vote effort. Thank you.
So if you look at the trend in red states specifically, I've noticed, and people smarter than me who pay attention to this stuff have noticed, that Republicans can't win on ideas, so they have to win by cheating. So gerrymandering, boosting initiatives to 60%, voter suppression. How can we communicate that effectively with our friends and neighbors who may not have noticed that particular bad habits that that the Republican Party has?
That's a great question. And I think part of it is that for people who are paying a lot of attention to this, the words that we use are familiar to all of us. But I'll have to tell you, to people who are just completely disengaged, and I am not saying anything that is intended to be unkind for people who are not paying attention to this political space. I recognize that people, for whatever reason, to choose different priorities. But unfortunately, if we say to somebody who's not paying attention, I'm worried about voter suppression, I would dare say that they wouldn't have the faintest idea what we're actually talking about. So I think we need to speak in just concrete terms, like I stand with every single person who wants to express their vote at the ballot box. And I oppose any efforts to change that. And so, I think that it's not that we want to ever have people feel that we're talking down to them about that. But I know that from my work as a doctor, almost nobody understands a medical condition that they've been presented with a diagnosis immediately. It's my responsibility to explain in layperson's terms what's going on and what the plan will be ahead. Similarly, for people who may not be paying attention to what's going on in this space, and as Ezra Klein said a few months ago, he said the biggest divide
is not between the right and the left. It's between the engaged and the unengaged. So from my medical career, I knew that my requirement was to explain as clearly as I possibly could, as briefly as I could, because you know how about doctor's appointments, the information, the essence of the information. So I think every single message that we give to people who are not paying attention needs to be concrete and driven by the aspiration for a better Utah in the most concrete terms that we can possibly do.
So when I was registering people to vote, I met a veteran and he got all excited when I told him he could vote. And he said, I can. And he got his friends over. I can vote. He was so proud of being able to vote. So we have to let people know they can vote, even when they think they can't vote.
Right. And thank you for the really important work you're doing in that space. It is so valuable so that we can both be in the streets and cast our vote in the ballot box.
So I think it's important to try to engage people, but I also think that for a very engaged audience, the question is, okay, we want to help. What can we do? What are some of the ways that if we wanted, because there was a victory in the district court a few weeks ago, but the question is far from settled.
Correct.
And I don't think I think it's going to be a hard fight if we're going to win this. So, what are some effective ways that people might be able to play a part besides voting, which is very important, but what else can we do?
Sure. Well, as I mentioned, and this is that small window, that it will be important for each one of you to take a look at the maps that are being presented and express your opinion. And and quite honestly, if you don't know how to judge a map, talk to people who do. You can look up Elizabeth Rasmussen, who's addressed this congregation. Better Boundaries will have some definitions for you. But I could tell you one thing to watch for when you're looking for at a map, that dividing a city like Salt Lake City for four ways is not compliant with any of the Proposition 4 criteria. And I have to say that it's not just Salt Lake City. Do you know how many representatives there are representing the city of Ogden? Little Ogden, 80,000 people. There's 5. Ogden City is divided 5 ways. So hopefully in 2028, we'll get a chance to address that. But first things first, we're going to be dealing with the congressional maps. So express your vote. And also you could use 5 Calls, that app, to contact your representative. 5 Calls will help you know who your representative is. Most people don't know who their representative is, and it's nothing to be ashamed about. But this will make it easier for you. And what's really exciting about this opportunity to express your opinion is Utahns lead the country in expressing our opinions. And I am so proud of that, and keep it up. Yes.
Dr. Lester, I voted for you
Thank you.
every time I could. Are you going to run again?
Yes.
Wonderful. And I am on 5 Calls.
Great.
But it's very discouraging because I don't feel it does any good. Would it do any good to contact our local state representatives? Do they have any input on this? So should we make our voices heard? I've got Jill Coford and Ann Miller.
Yes.
Should I contact them?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because they will be voting on these maps as well. And I can tell you, I am incredibly proud of my no vote on all of those maps in 2021.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Sometimes I feel that Utah is not a democracy, it's a theocracy. Because I believe that most of the Majority of the state legislatures are of the LDS faith. And nothing wrong with that if that's what they believe in. However, I cannot see a member of the LDS faith voting for anything the church doesn't want, whether it's good for the rest of us or not. Do you have a theory on that or anything?
Well, I'll have to tell you that I think over time, and we have noticed this trend, that people are listening to their churches as political guides less and less, and especially the young people. For instance, at BYU, the there is a large blue leaning a number of districts around the BYU campus. Now, that's obviously young people, but when we look at over time, the trends in Utah, that they are abandoning. Now, I know that's hard to believe because we know who's president and who this state voted for. But if you look at the trends and the directions that they've gone since 2012, Utah actually has moved more to the left, believe it or not, than any other state, any other red state in the country. So I think two things are happening. There's two things. First of all, there are people moving into the state of Utah who are not members of the dominant faith. That's one. And secondly, members of the faith are, I think, becoming more disenchanted with the disconnect between their values and some of the political points. I know that a few years ago, in 2024, the church hierarchy had asked each bishop to read a statement in their church that said, you should not vote for members of a political party, but you should decide the candidate on their own merits. There were bishops who did not do that, but there were plenty who did. And my hope is that people will take it to heart. Like you, the pace of progress is incredibly slow. We have these little spurts, and right now, I think we're in a spurt for democracy.
Lech Walesa, the former president of Czechoslovakia.
Poland.
Is leading a tour, and all the artists are rising up. So pay attention to what the artists are doing. And it really tells you what's happening.
That is really admirable of Lech Walesa to be coming to our country to teach us about democracy. It just goes to show you how circular history can be.
I think that's,
Thank you.
questions. Thank you again, Rosemary.
Thank you.
A few years ago, I read a biography of the composer Bach and Johann Sebastian Bach, and it was talking about different parts of a service. And the part of the service that you do every week was called the ordinary. And that was the great commission for a composer because that's the one that people heard over and over again. And so it made me think, we don't have our pianist here today. And while we did pick some music to listen to at appropriate parts, we usually have a piano playing when we do Candles and Stones. And there's a part of the offering in which we want to, in which we all sing together. So we will be a cappella today. And I think among other things, what I've learned today is we really do value our piano player. So, and the contributions he has to the ordinary parts of our service. All right. Our offering will now be given. Our offering of practice is a practice of gratitude for this community, filled with care and courage, love and resistance. We commit to keeping this community resourced for the ministries ahead, both in our walls and beyond. The offering we collect each week supports us in being the community that can best respond to the needs of these times. As we collect our offering today, we remember our interconnectedness and interdependence, and we generously offer our care with hopes to support all through these times. And would two people be willing to help us pass? Jim? Jim? So please rise, embody your voice, and facing the center aisle, sing together the offering song printed in your order of service. 1, 2, 3. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. Thank you. Your abundant generosity is part of modeling care and love. Thank you. All right, we have a few announcements today, and I'll share my screen in just a moment so that we can. All right.
No, bring announcements and we'll say something.
Yes.
I'm just getting ready.
All right. So first off, Codger Coffee is still every Friday at 9:30 a.m. at Grounds for Coffee on Harrison. And I believe this last Friday, they somehow got Representative Blank Moore to join them. And what was that? Oh, 2 Fridays ago, they got Representative Blake Moore to join them for conversation. I doubt he partook of the coffee, but yes.
Yeah, he drank all of it.
Yes, that would be. But he was there, and I think it was a very well attended and valuable conversation. So that was cool, and well done to those who were able to set that up. This month, our book club is reading Atul Gawande's Being Mortal. The book club meeting will be in the library here at First Presbyterian Church from 7 p.m. to 8:45 p.m. on September 17th. Tonight, at 7 p.m. in the Ogden Tabernacle, there is a free and open to the public interfaith concert. Canned food donations are encouraged for the Catholic Community Services Food Pantry. Next week, on Saturday, September 20th, from 4 to 6, the Marshall N. White Community Center is hosting a discussion on perspectives on community to develop ideas for collaborative involvement here in Ogden. And so if you're interested in that, please attend. I think I will try to be there. And then that night, the Ogden Trails Network has an event called the Shindig at Union Station that will feature bike races, raffle prizes, a silent auction, food, and a vintage mountain bike show. On September 27th from 9 to 1 p.m. at the Health Technology Building in the Ogden Weaver Technical College, there are free health screenings. And there is still an ongoing exhibit, the Art and Green competition exhibit at the Eccles Art Center, yes. And our own Karen Thurber is one of the participants.
Is that here in Ogden? I looked for an address.
Yes. Yeah, it is. Yeah, so it's going to be from September 5th to 27th. And I don't see the address here. Yeah, but the Eccles is on Jefferson Street.
But big old Victorian.
Yes, yeah.
It's the stone mansion.
Yes, it's the Stone Mansion. And in fact, Karen's exhibit is in the carriage house. So it's a home with a carriage house on Jefferson Street.
And the funds collected go to Utah's ACO.
Yes. All right. Ah, there we go. The Lutheran Church is offering a wonderful opportunity for personal growth and overcoming grief. You can join Pastor Danelise Simon for Gathering Our Grief, a course for the purpose of exploring and sharing both our personal and collective experiences of grief. This will be every Tuesday this October from 6:15 to 7:30 at the Ascension Lutheran Church here in Ogden on Washington Boulevard. Cost is $40, but if you're unable to pay, if that's too much, you can contact the pastor and arrange another method. Yes. All right. Speaking of coffee, we will actually be having coffee and pastries across the hall today in the Geneva room. And more details about any of these announcements are available in the UUCO newsletter. All right. As our service comes to an end, please join me in saying the chalice extinguishing words in your order of service. We extinguish.
You can sing a song?
No.
I thought it was in there.
There's a song, but it is This Land Is Your Land, and it will be on the screen. It will be played on the screen. If you want to sing along to that, you can, but we're not going to sing a song right now.
Okay.
All right.
We don't have it.
We extinguish this chalice, but not the warmth of love, the light of truth, nor the energy of action. I end with the benediction by Lucas Herger called Democracy's Benediction. We are democracy, unruly, unfinished, unrelenting. People of rebellious joy taking to the streets, underground resilience, resisting compliance, the pleasure of activism organizing into simple hope. We are democracy. People of principles taking on principalities, witnessing the worth of those called unworthy, justice just now gaining ground, integrity of interdependent existence extending, living democracy in heads, hands, and hearts. We know that democracy can die, ossify, bitter byproducts of bygone idealists, plotting politicians, pirating votes, corporations cannibalizing our care for the world. Look, it can wither, distend, come to an end. Democracy. Today we will love you alive, make you ours, make you thrive, and vote as though our hope is on the line. And our sending music today is This Land Is Your Land. I assume you've all heard by Woody Guthrie.